Iro. Okay? There. Alright, answered. Magko-connect din kasi ako sa klase natin so that I can call you later on. So this lesson will be recorded so that you can have a copy. Para hindi na po ako mag-record ulit. Okay, baka YouTube. Permission to record, Josh?
Yes po, ma'am. Okay po.
Thank you. Alright, so ayan po. There. Oh, present na si Ma'am Jazz as your classmate. And also we will add TL. Okay. Nasa thank you agad. Ay, nagtala na ni Josh. Alright, so let us start with the lecture. Where is that? Okay, so it is now recording. So our lesson for today is about excretory physiology. Alright, so let us begin. Okay. Alright, kindly turn off your cameras, please. Ako pala yung naka-on. Okay, let's stop share first. May nakita niyo yung Facebook ni Ma'am Jazz. Where are you? Ayun. Alright. How can I get this? Okay, again, you recognize if you have information that you would like to share to your classmates that would help in our learning of the excretory physiology. You may have read some information that can contribute to our knowledge of the excretory physiology. So as to the sponge and then the human kidney from the left and the right part of the title slide. So we know that in the case of sponges, they have this mechanism of, water flowing in and out of their pores. So this is how they regulate waste. So if ever there will be some mineral particles that will enter the sponge through this water flow system and maybe will try to threaten or block the sponge. So this mineral particles are transported through like a specific part of the sponge, which is the mesohyl. So I don't know if you have learned this in your zoology. So meron siyang mesohyl, which is actually a matrix. It's gelatinous, found inside or within the sponge. So this is their mechanism of parang excretory for simple animals like the poriferan na sponge. Okay, now to your left, you see here the kidneys of the human. So you have dalawa yan, all right? And then you have the renal pelvis, then the ureter, and then of course your urinary bladder. To the right part, so what you see here, class, is a model of how complex the capillary system or the blood vessel system uh, relationship is with your kidney. So nakikita nyo ito. You see what this structures are. So the red ones are, of course, your renal arteries, and the blue ones are your renal vein. So you see how complex ang blood vascular system sa kidney. So later on, I will try to, ask you if I remember how do you associate this very complex circulatory mechanism with your excretory system. Okay? Now, moving on to slide number 2, what you see here are the major parts of the machinery involved in excretion. So we have already discussed respiratory system. And as per our discussion, you have seen that the one of the excretory functions of the respiratory system is the elimination of carbon dioxide. So this works in conjunction with the circulatory system. How? So let's start first with digestive system. So you take in food, you take in water, and then it will enter the digestive system. From the digestive system, the nutrients, the water, and the salts will enter your blood vascular system. Okay? But all the waste products, the undigested food, as an excretory function, will be eliminated. Okay? So excretory function na siya. Now, the nutrients, water, and the salts now joins your circulatory system after final digestion. And there will be the rapid transport to and from all the living cells. So from the vessels, this will be distributed to the tissues, and then for the blood to be oxygenated, this is where respiratory system is involved. Okay, so oxygen intake, oxygen enters the circulatory system. But as to excretory function, you will see here, class, carbon dioxide is delivered to the respiratory system and is eliminated. Okay? Now, again, in conjunction with the circulatory system, you will see that blood will now enter the urinary system wherein the filtrate will be will undergo filtration, reabsorption, secretion, and then finally excretion for the elimination of excess water, salts, and waste. But you will notice that there is an arrow going back from the urinary system to your circulatory system. And you will see that this arrow is one function of the excretory system or the urinary system, and that is to return water and valuable or important substances back into the system or the body via your circulatory system. Okay, so this is how complex the excretory, the mechanism or the machinery of the excretory system is. It does not only involve your urinary system per se, although it's the one that performs the major functions, but it also involves your respiratory system, your digestive system, and most definitely yung inyong circulatory system. All right? So any questions so far? None?
None po, ma'am.
All right, thank you, Josh. So we now move on to the overview. So to simplify our lesson, we have first osmoregulation, followed by formation of urine. So for osmoregulation, we will be describing the components of urine. Okay, so where does it come from? And then the second portion will be about the urinary system. Okay, and how does it involve waste materials uh, going through your blood, and then how is urine formed. So related to formation of urine and the urinary system. And then we have, of course, the third, actually it's the fourth portion. We will be discussing the uh, control of water balance. So how is alcohol involved? How does the involve or the consumption of alcohol, how does it disrupt the urinary system's ability to regulate proper water balance in the body? Okay? So have you heard of the word hangover, Al? Na-hangover ka na ba, Al? Sa buong 20 years mo in this planet?
Di ba po?
Hindi pa.
Hindi
Sabagay.
pa.
Oo. Ah, so puwede naman siyang hindi ma-experience class. Actually, in my case, I was 28 years old when I experienced hangover. Okay, 28, very adult. Napagalitan pa ako ng tatay ko. It was my 28th birthday when I decided, okay, I have to experience this. Okay, but I was with my sister. Okay, so yun po, para safe. And then we have the fifth portion of the lesson will be, we will be discussing in passing na lang to class. We will not be like, if there's time, we will discuss each, but if there's no time, we will just, run through all some of the major urinary tract diseases or disorders encountered by humans. Okay? Now, let's start with osmoregulation. This is just like a quick review, so we will not focus on this part a lot. So you know already, like in the activity you perform with paramecium, di ba, yung osmoregulation is performed by the contractile vacuole. So what they do is they remove excess water and so that the paramecium, the organism will not burst. So in the case of our excretory system, particularly in mammals and animals in general, okay, there it operates in a fluid environment. Of course, you are familiar with ICF and ECF. You have the intracellular fluid found within the cell, and then your extracellular fluid, the fluid out found inside the body but outside of the cell. So you already know how substances enter or leave the cell via your different transport system. So it can either be by diffusion, by facilitated transport, by active transport. It can be symport, antiport. So all of these mechanisms are involved in the process of osmoregulation, particularly class, of course, osmosis. Wherein, of course, you know that the relative concentrations of water and solutes are being managed. So, to maintain osmoregulation or to maintain homeostasis, dapat po within narrow limits ang concentration ng outside and inside of an animal's cell. So, you know this already. So, why is it important? So, for freshwater animals, they show very uh, various adaptations for them to reduce water uptake, for them to be able to conserve solute. So like actually exemplify to ng paramecium nyo, di ba? Si paramecium nyo, meron siyang tendency to take in water via its cytopharynx, di ba? So it's vestibule, cytopharynx. So what the posterior, what's that? Posterior ba or anterior? Aloa. Na contractile vacuole is involved near the mouth of the paramecium. Not really the mouth, but the cytopharynx. So, naalala pa aloa? Is it the posterior or the anterior CV?
The posterior CV po.
All
Sige.
right, very good. So it's the posterior CV. So what it does is, since water enters, a lot of water enters the cytopharynx, then the tendency for the mas forceful si posterior contractile vacuole in excreting water. So the same with freshwater animals, they have an adaptation na they try to limit their uptake of water. Kasi 'di ba, if it's fresh water, it means that the environment is hypotonic. Okay? So when the environment is hypotonic, the tendency, for example, if this is your fish, the tendency is for the water from the environment to enter the organism. So may mga mechanisms ang freshwater animals to reduce this process of water uptake. And in the process, conserve solute. Kasi kailangan natin yun, di ba? Ang solute levels class must be maintained because these are important ions, electrolytes in the absorption of nutrients, di ba? In your um, transport, like facilitated, you need ions, you need sodium, potassium, chloride. So you need all of this. Okay? Calcium, very important for nerve visual. Pag walang calcium, neurotransmitters need calcium for contraction of muscle. You also need calcium. So problem, a physiological problem. Okay? Now for desert and marine animals, okay, who are exposed to desiccating environments or yung environments that are prone to drying up. So they have, uh, in this case, especially for marine animals, dito naman, the environment is hypertonic. So the tendency is for the animals to lose water. So depleted sila of body water. So again, these animals will have a mechanism of trying to maintain water within their system. Opposite of the mechanism performed by freshwater animals. So we have now the process of osmoregulation as defined. It is the process of regulating solute concentration and the process of balancing the gain and loss of water. So ibabalance niya po how much water should be taken in and how much water is lost to the environment. Okay, so how is this managed? It is controlled mostly by the movement of solutes between internal fluid and external environment. So in the process of excretory system, excretion is the process of getting rid of the metabolic waste. So it's not really the water, but the metabolic wastes. Okay po? So osmosis, you know already, that's the movement of water, and it's very important for cells that require balance. Okay, so there's a balance between what is gained and what is lost in the case of water. Okay, and then, of course, there are several mechanisms involved depending on the type of environment that you are in. Okay, class? So, okay, what they call this? Okay, there. Okay. So moving on, we have osmotic challenge. O, di ba? May pa-osmotic challenge pa. So for osmotic challenge, I just took some examples from our lesson on principles of physio. Of course, you are familiar with animals who are osmoconformers, so which means that their internal environment is parallel to that of their external environment. So since they cannot control their internal environment, they just conform. So for marine animals, they're mostly osmoconformers. So it means that they are isoosmotic with their surrounding. So hindi nila nire-regulate yung kanilang osmolarity. So kung ano yung osmolarity ng environment, yun din yung sa loob ng kanilang katawan. So with that, there will be very few or at least none na movement kasi isoosmotic. So pareho yung concentration. So this is true for most marine invertebrates. Okay? Now, for osmoregulators, of course, you know this, they expend energy to control the mechanism of uptake and loss of water. So kapag hyperosmotic, iba po. Pag hyperosmotic, kinokontrol nila ang water loss. Okay? Pag hypoosmotic naman, they lose more water and they control the loss of electrolytes or solutes. So, ganun po yung mechanism. So, this is true for most marine vertebrates and also some vertebrates. Okay? So, moving on, we have, pigilan si Ma'am Jess pag medyo sobrang bilis, ha? So, most animals also, some terms that you will have to remember is hindi lang yung osmoconformer and osmoregulator. So, di ba, um, we also have stenohaline. So it is said that most animals are stenohaline. It means that they cannot tolerate changes in external osmolarity. If the change is substantial, meaning medyo extreme. Okay? So euryhaline animals naman can survive despite large differences or large changes in their environment. Okay? So kahit mag-change yung external osmolarity, these animals, euryhaline animals, can adapt and can survive. Okay? As opposed to stenohaline. Okay po? So, examples of the euryhaline animal is the tardigrade or some aquatic invertebrates. So, some aquatic invertebrates, they are found in ponds. So pag sinabi mong temporary ponds, pag nag-change yung season, they dry up. And then if it's rainy season again or spring, then the pond is filled up with water. So what this tardigrade, the adaptive mechanism that they do is that they dehydrate themselves. So they lose almost all their body water and can survive in a dormant state. So the process is known as anhydrobiosis. So ito makikita nyo yung tardigrade dito. So it becomes really small, losing almost, most of its water. You would think it's dead, but it's not. It's just in its dormant stage or dormancy stage, a dehydrated tardigrade. So for plant fisho, this is also true for plant fisho. In what particular part or example? Class. Pag sa plant fisho, how is this mechanism or adaptive mechanism observed in plants? Class? Any idea? Anyone? Okay, I'll just call on anyone. Catherine, kung sa animals may ganito, dinidehydrate niya yung sarili niya so that it becomes in a dormant state. And then kapag bumalik yung water in the temporary pond, then it will again take in as much water as it can and survive in a hydrated state. Okay? So, Kath, how about in plants? Saan mo to nakikita sa plants? Are you familiar or
Hindi po ako familiar.
Di man, just imagine sa tanom, anong part ng tanom ang nag-undergo ng dormancy? Pero pag pig-expose mo sa water, it will, it will act like the usual plant that it is. Grow,
Yung sa shoot system po.
shoot. O, imaginein mo, Kat. So, hindi naman, kasi mas malilearn nyo to. Yung shoot, kapag di mo yan binigyan ng water, mabubuhay pa ba yung shoot? Especially if there's no roots, for example. Do you think the shoot will survive?
No po.
No. O, tanungin kita, anong part ng plant ang kayang mag-survive even in the absence of water? Hi! Quiz, quiz. Sige, Kat, mag-call a friend tayo. Christian, do you have an idea? It's okay, Kat. Christian, ikaw, anong part ng plant ang tingin mong kayang mag-survive even in the absence of water? Yung undergoes dormancy. Hala, isumbong ko kay Sir Dean. Part of the plant that can undergo dormancy, Christian. Sige po, Christian.
Hindi ko po alam, ma'am, to be honest.
Okay, 2 out of 20, 2 out of 30. Okay, punta tayo kay bibinggo tayo. Ito hindi pa alam ni James. James, ang pag-asa ng Block B. Okay, James. Do you have an idea? Which part of the plant can undergo dormancy and survive hundreds of years even in a dormant state? Yes.
Hindi ko din po alam, but try ko lang.
Sige, sige.
Po ba, ma'am?
Leaf, gusto mong luto na. Oh, nag-race sino yung nag-race? Jamel. Sorry, Jamel. Sige, James, malalaman
Is
mo
it
ang
the
sagot.
seeds po, ma'am?
Correct. It's the seed. Jamel, you're correct. You have saved Block B. Okay, class. Kung mag-e-end of the world na, all right? Usually in Facebook, if you have seen it in your feed, marami ka na ngayong makikita na mga feed on Facebook concerning the end. Like Watchmen, surviving the pole shift, mga ganon. I don't know if any one of you here is following that on YouTube or has seen this posts on Facebook. Okay? So mga yung surviving, how to survive the end of the world, or if in case there will be an asteroid coming or the war will reach the Philippines. So, unang-una, you should have the go bag. So, kahit po hindi end of the world, let's say a calamity, how do you prepare for a calamity? Uh, you have things like food, of course, water, canned foods that's non-perishable, some clothes, of course, medicine, some sources of light, like you should have a way of or an instrument that can help you produce light. Kung hindi kayo Girl Scout or Boy Scout, yung marunong kayo yung stick baga, like in the movies. So if you cannot do that, then at least you have a machine or you can order it on Shopee. Actually, meron na class mga solar lighter. You like just expose it to sunlight and then it will give you a spark. Marami na nun. So why do I know this? Because um, okay, I have a close member of the family who is, a believer of the coming planet now that's gonna hit uh, Earth. It's not gonna hit Earth actually, but it's gonna pass by. But because it's a really big planet, it's gonna affect the pole shifting, something like that. Anyway, whether it's true or not, it needs scientific. It's for scientific. Of course, we are biology here, but despite that, one of the things that you should have in your survival bag or kit are seeds. Okay? Like seeds ng certain trees, but if it's too heavy, seeds po ng mga plants that you can use to survive, like petchay, kangkong, kamote. Walang seed ang kamote. Potato. Does potato have a seed, guys? Plant fish. Alam niyo naman, hindi ko favorite ang plant, di ba? So, anyway, for most plants that has, ang root crop kasi, ang problema natin sa root crop ay yun sana ang makaka-help sa atin but doesn't have seeds. So you can go for banana seeds. But mostly yung those plants that can survive na konti ang pag-care. So, di ba class, for the plantitas here who survived the first wave of COVID, maraming naging plantita. But in our case, class, instead of buying yung mga plants that are for their aesthetic value, during the first wave of the pandemic, ang dami naming tinanim, usually ah, talong, okra, ampalaya, and pechay. So they really grow very fast. And some herbs like we grew also basil. So ito, may mga seed to class. So these seeds, you can keep them for years. Okay nga, meron nga class mga report on yung mga bunkers daw ng mga first world countries, they already have a seed bank because these dormant seeds can survive for years, hundreds even of years, class, as long as hindi po siya ma-expose sa moisture, as long as the seeds are desiccated. So, ibig sabihin po, wala talagang moisture. It will not grow into a plant and stay dormant as long as it is not exposed to water. Pag po na-expose yan kahit konting water lang or water, masisira na po yung dormancy niya. So you need to actually really plant it in soil or hydroponics. So mag-grow na po siya. Okay? So this tardigrade exhibits the same way as a mechanism of regulating, okay, so that it can survive desiccation of its environment, like yung temporary pond. So I hope that you have learned something from his so that kapag we need to survive, meron na kayong mga monggo, kasi hindi po tayo katulad nitong tardigrade wherein if there's absence of water, we can what do you call this? Adapt by being dehydrated. If a human or a mammal is dehydrated, there is a probability that we will die of dehydration. Okay? So, for land animals, there is a mechanism for us to actually gain water and then lose water. So, for water gain, so this is what we call the water budget. So, in a hamster, makikita mo na um, most of its water is gained through its ingestion of food as well as from metabolism. So when we say metabolism, this refers to what? Anong process po? Naalala ba, Irish? Pag metabolism. So water daw is gained by this hamster mostly by from metabolism. So how is this? How does this happen? Alam po ba, Irish? Or not? Can you hear me, Irish? You can, yes, Irish, are you there? All right, so I think Irish can't hear me. So we move on. So metabolism ka, cellular respiration. Remember nyo, O2 plus C6H12O6. Of course, after cellular metabolism or cellular respiration, you have CO2 and water, di ba? So you see, this is how this animal gains most of its water. Okay? And we have, for humans, you will also see that in our case, most of the fluid that we take in is, of course, what we drink. It is ingested in liquid form. So, umiinom ka ba ng 8 glasses of water a day or at least 2 liters? Okay? Kasi remember class, for water loss, humans will lose about 1,500 ml of water via their urine, 100 ml via the fecal matter, and 900, that's almost a liter, by evaporation. So since the Philippines is a humid country, we are prone class into losing water via evaporation. Maglakaw-lakaw ka lang sa luwas nindo, mainit, humid pa, when you sweat a lot, you are losing as much as 900 liters of water. So just imagine, naglulus ka ng 900 ml, naglulus ka pa ng 1.5 liters by urination, and, you know, from fecal matter. So if you will not replace this by drinking water and then by eating food with water or with fluid, like fruits are rich in fluid, mga sabaw, okay? And of course, from metabolism, then if you do not balance this, you will be dehydrated most of the time. Okay, so later on, you will find out how do you check if you are dehydrated without going to the doctor. All right? So we need to drink and eat food rich in fluid, okay, for us to actually gain water. Okay? So, for animals naman, yung desert animals. So, where they get major water savings from simple anatomical features. In the case of the camel, it's not the hump. Yung hump baga ng camel is a misconception na kasi may storage ng water yung camel sa hump. No. The hump of the camel is actually filled with what? Sinong nakakaalam? Sa hump ng camel. Class. Ano ba ang alam nyo about sa hump ng camel? Anong meron? Tubig ba ang laman nun? May baon bang tubig yung camel sa hump niya? Fats daw sabi ni Bem. Josh also said fats. Very good, Bem and Josh. It really is fat. So kaya din po ni camel mag-survive ng long periods of time without eating. Kasi fat deposit po yung hump nila. So thank you, Bem and Josh. Tama po kayo. Now, for desert animals, okay, their simple anatomical feature is actually their fur. Okay? So, to test if this is true, so the fur of camels plays a very important role in their conservation of water, especially that they are found in the desert. Okay, so yung may mga scientists in university class, what they did was, they observed na yung fur pala ng camels exposed to the sun, full heat, full force ng sun, okay, it could reach temperatures, yung kanilang fur, up to 70 degrees Celsius. Okay? While, even if yung fur nila, hindi mo 70 degrees Celsius, kita nga ni, room temperature, 25, pag nag-30, iinitan ka na, lalo pag summer, nagte-34 or nagpo-40, para nakadayong ewan sa sobrang init. So just imagine the camel, their fur can reach up to 70 degrees Celsius. That's twice your fever. Pag fever tayo, that's 40. Just imagine, you double that. Kaya po yan ng camel. So that much heat. Okay, because of their fur. Okay, now, so just to test their hypothesis or their question in mind, na is it, so in this case, na 70 degrees Celsius class yung kanilang uh, fur. Okay, the animal skin, so what's inside the fur, remained 30 degrees cooler. So kahit po 70 degrees na yung kanilang fur, yung kanilang skin nasa 40 pa lang. So garo kalinturado lang yung kanilang skin. Okay? So just to test their hypothesis, what they did was clinip nila. They clipped the fur. So based from this figure here, you will see that okay, yung control group, the unclipped fur, so water that they lose per day is about, that's 2 liters per kilogram body mass. Tama ba to? Liters per 100 kilogram of body mass. So when they clip the fur, class, as in one-third ang tinaas, ay almost a half of the original ang tinaas po ng nalulus na water when they remove the fur. Okay? So, mas mataas yung water loss. Syempre naman. Okay? So, that is via anatomical features, how water loss is conserved or inhibited in desert animals. Okay? Some, for marine animals like this, ano to, albatross. Okay, class? So, albatross, what they have here, you will see. Ay, anong nangyari? Okay, they have, class, dito sa kanilang nasal cavity, what you see here is their salt gland. So their salt gland, okay, yung nasa likod nila, that's the gland. Usually, glands are aligned with cuboidal epithelia. So you see kasi itong cuboidal epithelia nila, so you see them associated with blood vessels. So they actually release, okay, they release salty solution. So garo nagnuno sin the class ki nagdidrip from their nose or a duct in their nostril yung salty solution to balance and to remove excess solute. Okay? Ine-exhale nila yon yung salty solution. Okay? So they have several, ang dami nilang tube, several secretory tubules. So it's a salt excreting gland in the albatross. Okay? So what happens now is they can control yung ano nila, salt gradient or concentration gradient. Okay? So it removes excess sodium chloride from their blood. Okay? Para po hindi po mag-crenate yung kanilang mga cells despite being exposed to marine water. Ang inyong mga albatross. Okay? Di ba yung sa Finding Nemo, ito ba yung mga nagsasabi ng mine? Yung mine? Di ba yon? Albatross ba yon? Hindi. I'm not familiar. Maybe they're seagulls, right? But they're in the same maybe family. Okay? So now we're done with the introduction. So ito, wala po to class doon sa introduction. But this is general knowledge. So true or false for number 1, please answer in your messenger. So for those who have an idea in your zoology about excretory system, what is the nephron? Are they the microscopic units of the kidney? True or false? All right, Josh, done?
Yes po.
All right, so we now move on to the excretory process or the formation of urine. So there are 4 major processes in the formation of urine. So in particular, we have the filtration, followed by reabsorption, and then secretion, and excretion. So most of the excretory system produce urine by refining a filtrate derived from body fluid. So you have here, of course, kanina, di ba, in the first slide, you have seen the, what they call this, the mechanism wherein yung relationship yung capillary beds with the kidney. Sobrang complex siya. So, the first excretory process, of course, is filtration. So, yung excretory tubule nyo, located this part. So, for the benefit of the others, ito, ginawa lang siyang vertical, but what you see here is, this area here on top is your glomerulus. Okay, and in conjunction with your capillary or the vessels, the capillary. So you have papasok na arrow to the glomerulus, and you will see that an arrow also goes back to the blood. So it means that some of the substances uh, is returned to the blood, while the blood has to enter the glomerulus for filtration, producing the filtrate. Okay, so when we say filtration, it the excretory tubule, okay, here this tube yellow going down, it um, collects the filtrate from the blood. Okay, so ito na yung filtrate, kinolect from the capillary, entering the glomerulus. Okay, I will be discussing later the entire process of glomerular filtration. And then the water as well as the solutes are now forced by blood pressure across the selectively permeable membrane of the capillaries here, and then to the excretory tubule, yellow going down. Okay? And then after filtration, reabsorption. So it means, class, as the filtrate travels through the tubules of your nephron, that's the basic unit of your kidney, by the way. You cannot change your answer anymore. It's the microscopic part of the kidney. So the transport epithelium, okay, will reclaim. Kaya nga ang sabi, reabsorption. So it will reabsorb or reclaim yung valuable substances like organic molecules that should not be in the blood, should not be in the urine, rather, will be reabsorbed back. Nakita ko nyo ba kanina, may arrow pabalik sa capillaries. Okay? So these are uh, substances that must be reabsorbed. Amino acid, glucose, some salts, even water. Okay? Can also be reabsorbed. So from the filtrate, okay, this is returned to the body fluid. So pwede rin, class, by diffusion, you see that it can also occur via the vessels mismo without passing through the glomerulus anymore. So meaning, class, reabsorption now occurs if later on you will remember doon sa part po ng collecting duct. Okay? And then afterwards, it is followed by secretion. Okay? So other substances like toxins, excess ions, okay, they are extracted from the body fluids and they are added to the contents of your filtrate in the excretory tubule. So this is where secretion occurs. Halimbawa, mga effect class ng ininom nyo na gamot, mga drugs, even toxins, they now will enter yung through your capillaries, through your uh, distal, maybe distal convoluted tubule, but more on the collecting duct. Okay? And then finally, your urine will be excreted. So the filtrate will now leave your system and your body via your urine. Okay? So that is, class, the excretory process. Okay? So most excretory systems, of course, as discussed earlier, has these four major functions already explained in the previous slide. All right. So now we have the uh, importance of protein and how does it become the waste product. Okay. So tandaan nyo, most or one of the primary waste products, okay, found in urine, galing po yan sa protein. Okay? It comes from the metabolism of protein. So remember nyo, during transcription and translation, so may diba cells, all your cells undergo, let's say if it has an enzyme to be produced or it has a hormone to be produced, so your cells, kasi remember nyo, protein, it is structural. Ano pa, ang function ng protein nyo, produces enzymes, structural components like myosin, actin in the muscle, even the production of hemoglobin. So, sobra talagang dami ng function ng protein. So, our body, our physiology, mostly protein metabolism. So, most of the waste comes from the metabolism of proteins. And from this metabolism, it results into a nitrogenous waste. And this nitrogenous waste must be eliminated from the body. Do you have an idea what this nitrogenous waste is? Let's say especially for humans like us. Ano yung immediate nitrogenous waste that is produced from the metabolism of protein? Anyone who has an idea? Yes, ammonia according to Gemel. Nick says urea, Ashley urea. Anyone else? Okay. All your answers are correct. They are uh, uric acid according to Josh. All right. So meron ng urea, may uric acid at may ammonia. Creatinine according to Mavi. Yes. So these are all waste products. So all your answers are correct. But as to, let's say, mammals or humans, the immediate toxic nitrogenous waste produced is actually ammonia. Okay? Now, and it also varies with your with other animals. Ano? Kaya nga yung sagot nyo na ammonia, ano to? Yung sagot nyo na uric acid and urea, they are all correct. Kasi for most aquatic animals, including many or most fishes, the amino group coming from the metabolism of protein is still ammonia. So si fishes nyo, ang kanyang nitrogenous waste ay talagang ammonia. Mammals, some amphibians, most amphibians pala, sharks and some bony fishes, the nitrogenous waste, of course, still coming from the amino group, is urea. Okay? And for birds, insects, reptiles, and land snails, it's uric acid. So dito tayo sa mammals. So our nitrogenous waste is urea. But mind you, in mammals class, specifically humans, after protein metabolism, ang una nating byproduct or nitrogenous waste is actually ammonia. And in our case, hindi tayo aquatic animal. So this ammonia is actually very toxic. But then, since po we are created perfectly, there is a mechanism of downgrading the toxicity of ammonia. And this is via the what organ kaya? What organ kaya? Anyone who remembered? I made mention of this in one of our lectures. Sige, Kurt, do you remember kung saan dadaan si ammonia sa katawan natin para po ma-downgrade yung toxicity niya bago siya maging urea?
Wait po, ma'am. I'm trying to remember po.
It's okay. You can mention it's a major organ of the body. One of the major organs of the body. Definitely not the heart. It's part of the digestive system. Hindi binigyan ng clue si Kurt. Okay. So, kasi, ang misconception, some of us think na automatic, ang waste product natin ay urea na agad. No.
Liver po ba?
After, yes, correct, Kurt. So, liver po. So, you are right. Thank you. So, liver po class. Okay? So, even if freshwater organisms produce ammonia, land animals like us produces urea, and egg-laying animals produces uric acid, in our case, we also produce ammonia. It's just that it's so toxic that it is diverted to the liver, and then that's where it's converted to urea. So that's the time that urea now will go to our kidney to be filtered out as a waste product. Pero kumbaga, ni-lower muna no, yung toxicity by the liver. Kaya nga class, kapag sinira nyo yung liver nyo almost all of the systems will be affected. Kasi si liver, if damaged, of course, if it cannot anymore filter out ammonia, so higher toxicity, let's say if it's not able to convert ammonia to urea, pupunta itong toxic substance sa kidney natin, so damage yung kidney natin. And remember, pag kidney na ang damage, it's a debilitating systemic disorder that will affect other organs, your nerves, your circulatory system. Kaya 'di ba kapag diabetic for example, you the worst case scenario is that the patient will now undergo dialysis. So if you don't know the idea of dialysis, wala na po class na self-cleaning mechanism yung blood mo. So it means that yung blood mo, kahit po dumadaan siya sa kidney, hindi na po na-filter out yung waste because damage na talaga yung inyong kidney. So what happens is every week yung blood mo ipapadaan po sa isang machine and then it will be replaced by the blood of someone else. Someone needs to donate blood to replace blood loss. But the mechanism of the dialysis is the dialysis machine now works like your kidney. It filters out the waste from your blood because your kidneys don't work properly anymore. Okay? So kaya dapat talaga guys, in other than maintaining a healthy diet, just imagine also your habit of excretion. Tumatae ba kayo araw-araw? How many times do you urinate in a day? Isang beses lang? Oh, kaka-ml, kaka-COC, kaka-LOL? From 8 to 5? Dahil nakikinig sa lesson ni Ma'am Jazz na halos 3 oras, hindi na umiihi kasi baka ang next slide ay question. Mami, pinagdadaanan po ba to? Ma'ams.
Di man.
Parang, huy, tawagan niyo ako, baka next slide ni Ma'am Jazz is quiz na. So, parang ganon. So, alam niyo naman, so pag magle-lesson ako, dapat umihi na kayo ng bonggang-bongga. And as much as possible, if you cannot control your urination at kayo yung tipong tao na palaihi, wag na munang uminom ng tubig habang nagle-lecture si Ma'am Jazz. Tabakan na ihi ka nung time na lumabas yung slide for the recit quiz. Alright? So ganun po siya, class. Maintaining a healthy diet, you exercise, but also consider your excretory system habit. Okay? Ask yourself, do you defecate every day? Remember class, 6 hours from the time that you ate, dapat po meron ka ng undigested food. Pwede namang hindi mo agad to ilabas. So mag-accumulate siya. Let's say you ate in the morning, in the lunchtime, and in the evening. So it will be processed and the undigested food will accumulate and should be released the following day. Okay? That's one good excretory practice. Another is urination. Malalaman mo kung tama ang level ng water mo by the number of times that you urinate. Okay? At least 5 times in a day. Maka 5 times ka lang in a day. That is quite normal. Okay? Pero kung nag-urinate kang once lang in a day or twice, ibig sabihin, class, kinokontrol ng katawan mo ang pag-urinate mo because you are dehydrated. You do not need to lose water because you need the water. So what happens now? Nag-urinate ka, your urine is very concentrated because your kidney is trying to reabsorb the water. Pag nag-defecate ka, matagason, wag madidiri ka kasi excretory ang lesson natin. If your fecal release is, if you are constipated, all right, as opposed to the normal defecation, it means that kasi po, the large intestine, i-advance ko na yung digestive system. The large intestine, before excreting your fecal matter, also has a tendency of reabsorbing water. Kasi nga, biyo na, drought na ang lawas mo. Sabi kang lawas mo, sus ko, ining tawong inida nag-iinom. So, saan niya kukunin? Sa tae mo. Kukunin yung water. dun siya magre-reabsorb ng water sa colon mo. And another way of conserving water is through your kidney. So doon sa collecting duct, i-reabsorb niya yung water from your urine, resulting to concentrated urine, which you will know later on is seen in the color of your urine. Anong kulay ang ihi mo will also so tell you how hydrated or dehydrated you are. Alright? So, hindi lang po yan about sa waste. It's about the number of times you, let's say, what they call this, um, release or remove waste from your body. Okay? Um, so how do these animals? So nitrogen waste disposal in water. So for freshwater animals, so ano yung mechanism nila? So kung ikaw, marami kang water sa katawan mo, okay, you can also urinate a lot. And if you will look at your urine, kung malinis yung toilet bowl nyo at kaya nyong makita to, kasi sabi nga ni Ma'am Jess, i-check ko nga ang color kang urine ko. Pagtingin nyo sa bowl nyo, yellow. Yun pala, yung bowl nyo yung yellow, hindi man yung urine nyo. Okay? So, wag mag-react agad. Maya, brown nga yung ihi ko. Ito pala, hindi ka man. Yung bowl nyo pala, hindi mo na nalinisan kasi busy-busy ka. Alright? So, you have to check on that. Okay? Wag mag-react agad. So, for freshwater animals, so if you have a lot of water, okay, you can dilute the waste before it poisons you. All right? Or if you have a lot of water, you can urinate it out, but it will be very diluted. Okay? So, in the case of freshwater animals, they excrete ammonia, 'di ba kanina? Ang immediate waste product ng mga freshwater fishes uh, is ammonia. So, they excrete this through their gills. Okay? Or, syempre, they have also yung part where they excrete their urine through their cloaca. Alright? So, ang problema, class, yung mga predators, oh my God, guys, nag-off yung laptop. Wait lang po. Give me 1 minute. Akala ko nakasaksak. Nakasaksak sa class. Except hindi siya nakasaksak doon sa main line. Nakasaksak yung charger. Okay? Let's see. Sign in. OMG, what happened? Alright. Discard. Kainis naman. So where are you? Rejoin. Okay. 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 Join now. All right. Hi, class. Sorry about that. Nag-off yung laptop ni Ma'am Jess. So let's return to the presentation. Okay. Alright. So dito na tayo sa freshwater animals. So we have, it's not moving. Right? So yun. With the freshwater animals excreting ammonia through their gills, there's a problem with predators kasi yung predators, ang tinitrace nila, class, yung urine ng animal sa water. So, nalalaman ng mga predators kung nasaan yung isda. Okay? So, yung gills ng fishes nyo, as you can see in this arrow here, they have parang yung epithelia. So, they have epithelia in their gills which actively pumps salt. Okay? Doon sa hypotonic environment nila. Right? So, we have for Ayan, sinabi ko na to class. So they either take in water from their hypoosmotic environment. So they drink the water, of course, from their environment, these freshwater animals. But how do they maintain water balance? They do this by removing large amounts of water. So kumbaga, they drink water from their environment, but they urinate it, but their urine is diluted. Kasi they have to retain the solute into their body. Okay, so they need to remove, parang si paramecium niya, ina-expel niya via contractile vacuum. So in the case of freshwater animals, they excrete large amounts of diluted urine. Okay, so how do they replace this lost water? They replaced it by, or the lost salt rather, by taking in food through their gills. Okay, so through their mouth and then also uptake of salt through their gills pala. Okay, so um, for marine fishes, so these are animals found or residing in seawater. So they are hypoosmotic. So sige nga, what does it mean? If you remember, tingnan natin kung naalala nyo pa. Durulaga naman kita. Trisha. Hi, Trisha. Trisha May. Alam pa po ba ang hypoosmotic? Anong ibig sabihin nun? Halimbawa, ikaw, tilapia ka. Tapos, nasa ocean ka. So, anong ibig sabihin ng hypoosmotic ka sa seawater? Anong ibig sabihin nun? Mas mataas ba ang water? ah sige, solute yung pag-usapan natin. Kasi mas, sino ang mas mataas ang solute? Ikaw or yung seawater?
Um,
Sino mas mataas ang solute? Don't think about volume, ha? Think about homeostasis. So, halimbawa, kung ikaw compare mo yung solute concentration, okay, saan ba mas concentrated ang solute? Sa labas, sa dagat ba, or sa loob ng katawan mo, kung ikaw yung fish?
I think, ma'am, sa loob po ng
Mas
katawan.
mataas yung water. Mas
Concentrated
concentrated yung
solute.
ng katawan mo. Okay?
Yes po.
Okay. O, sige, listen very well, Grish. Okay lang po. Mas maganda yun na alam ko if you have a misconception about it. It's the bony fishes, the marine fishes. O, sige, change natin yung color to. So, it's the marine bony fishes who is hypoosmotic. So, ibig sabihin po ng hypo is mababa. Hypoosmotic ka. Meaning po, mababa ang solute mo, mataas ang water mo as compared to seawater. Si seawater baga, hyper baga ito. So, seawater is hyperosmotic to the fish. The fish is hypoosmotic to seawater. So, ang tendency is, so if we will draw that, of ito yung isda mo, okay, mababa ang solute, mataas ang water. Okay? Now, si seawater ay mataas ang solute, mababa yung water. So now, if you apply osmosis, Nick, saan ang direksyon ng water or movement of water? Palabas ng organism or papasok ng organism?
Palabas po, ma'am.
Correct. So the tendency, guys, is dahil hypoosmotic yung fish, hypo siya, so the tendency is for it to lose water to the environment. Kasi hyperosmotic si seawater eh. So di ba nga, pag ang cell linagay mo sa hyperosmotic, mag-shrink siya kasi maglulose siya ng water to the environment. Okay? So palagi 'yon. So because that's the tendency, so what happens is the marine fishes lose water by osmosis. They gain salt by diffusion and from the food that they eat. But for them to conserve water and to balance water loss, wala naman silang choice. They need to drink salt water. Now, ano ang effect ng pag-inom mo ng salt water sa cell? Remember, if you expose your cells to hyperosmotic water like seawater, mag-shrink siya. So, ang ginagawa ng marine fishes is that they urinate small amounts of water that are very concentrated. Okay? Para po, instead of losing a lot of water, they urinate little amounts of water that is very concentrated. So, nire-remove nila yung solute and a little of the water. Okay? So, ito po yun, class. Okay? So, for fresh water, they take in ions through their gills. They take in water and ions through their food. And then, osmotic water also is gained through their gills and other parts of the body surface. So, makikita nyo, pag fresh water, mostly, puro papasok yung water. Okay? Through gills, through body surface, through the food that they eat, and even through the gills, ions are taking in. So, their excretion is by large amounts of water, but is diluted. So, on the other hand, for marine fishes, okay, makikita mo, puro palabas yung arrow. Okay? So, why is that? Una, the only way that they can gain water is from the food that they eat and drinking seawater. No choice. Yun yung environment nila eh. But how do they lose water? So they lose water, osmotic water loss through their gills and also other body surfaces. And then they also excrete ions through their gills. But you will see here that they excrete salt ions and only very small amounts of water in their kidney. From their kidney through their cloaca. So concentrated urine. Very small amounts. Unlike po si fresh water, ihi din siya ng ihi marami pero diluted. Kasi trine-retain niya yung ions. Pag marine, nire-retain niya yung water. Nire-remove niya yung ions. So, that is how they maintain homeostasis. So, iba ang kaso class pag egg laying. Alright. So, for egg laying animals, so um they if you are a bird and you are a reptile and you are found of course inside a shelled egg, saan ka ba ano you can do that, di ba? You cannot. So for the birds embryo inside the egg, there's no place to get rid of waste while they are inside the egg. Okay. But unlike land animals na urea ang waste product and water animals na ammonia ang waste product, uh, for egg laying animals, their waste product is uric acid ba? And if you don't know yet, uric acid is actually insoluble in water. Okay? So uric acid, and this can be excreted as a semi-solid waste. So in the case of birds, the uric acid, since it's insoluble in water, they stay as a powder. Okay? So kapag po, Patricia, have you eaten balot?
Hindi pa po, ma'am.
Oh my gosh! 20 years of your life, no balot yet? Or you eat tomorrow, ha? Okay. Pag class you need energy, you eat balot, like mag-exam, okay? Uh, it's rich in protein and nutrients and yung sabaw po kasi ng balot class, hindi po yun wiwi, para naman kayong hindi biology student yan. Precious, nakakain ka na po, Precious, ng balot?
Yes po, ma'am.
Oo. If you ask me, class, before when I was working in Manila, sobrang favorite ko ang balot. I even buy like 3 pieces minimum. Kinakain ko yung isahan. Yun na yung dinner ko. Okay, but most of the time, I close my eyes when I eat it because I don't want to see the bird. I don't want to see the embryo because I just, swallow it and eat it even with the feathers and the beak. And it's very, very delicious. certain number of weeks. So soft pa man po yung embryo. Cannibal din si Ma'am Jazz. Di ba? I'm not a bird. So what do you call that? So yun po class na balot for those who are experts here of eating balot. Paano po kinakain yung balot, Mary Jane? Nakakain na po si Mary Jane ng balot?
Hindi pa po, ma'am.
Ayan lang. Mavi, have you eaten balot already?
Hindi pa po.
Uy, hala. It's because ano, by choice ba ito, Mavs? Ayaw mong kumain?
Wala man po nagtitinda sa malapit sa amin.
Ay, no. Pag face-to-face na class, oo nga pala, most of you do not reside in Legazpi. And so, none of you actually has stayed here for the 2 years kasi nag-COVID. So, I understand now. But anyway, it's an acquired taste. Not all people would like to eat balot. But to relate it to our subject, like in my case, yung mga expert dito ng balot. Sino bang expert dito? Mark Angelo, have you eaten balot already?
Yes po.
Yan, how do you eat it? Like, una yung pag-crack ng egg. So, when you crack the egg, talagang may demonstration kasi ang daming hindi pa nakakakain ng balot. So, balot, ay sus ko naman, ang ganda naman ng pagka-drawing. So, it's an ovate. So, ibig sabihin, class, meron siyang pointed part at meron siyang perong medyo flat na part. Okay? So, the flat part and the pointed part. So, para dito sa mga half of the class who has not eaten balot yet. It's an acquired taste. It's a delicacy. It's really yummy. It has so many nutrients. Okay? And nakakapatalino daw yung balot. So, anyway. Alright. Now, what is inside the balot? This is duck egg, by the way, class. Okay? Kung ayaw nyo na may embryo, you can get the penoy. So the penoy class is just the yellow and it's kind of soup-based yellow. It's younger. The duck egg balot, the balot is 6 weeks ata. 6 weeks or 4 weeks old. I don't know. Small pa lang yung bird. So, Mark, kung ika-crack ko yung balot, saan? Sa pointed side or sa flat side?
Sa flat side po.
Expert ka nga talaga. Feeling ko naka 100 balot ka na in your life. Or more.
Hindi, ma'am.
Oh, more. Okay. Ako, oo, parang feeling ko. So, for those who have not eaten balot yet, pag nakapunta na po sa Legazpi, kasi mag-face-to-face na tayo next SEM, I will be your teacher in genetics. So, ang una ko pong ipagagawa ay papakainin ng balot yung mga hindi pa nakakakain. Alright. So, you have to crack the egg doon sa flat side. Okay? And this is class to avoid the white hard thing that is found on the pointed side of the balot. This pointed side with a hard white accumulation, it's hard para sa class na yung puti ng egg, imagine niyo tumigas yon ng sobrang tigas para na siyang cartilage. This area here na gusto ni Mark na iwasan natin kaya dun siya sa flat part magka-crack is actually uric acid. Ito po ay yung tumigas na waste product ng egg-laying animals. So, wag na wag nyo tong kakainin. That is hardened pea. Wiwi po yan nung ibon sa loob ng itlog. Sino sa inyo ang kumain niyan? Hala. Hindi naman po siya poisonous. And anyway, if it's the end of the world at wala nang makakain, pwede nyo naman kainin yan. Pero just imagine, that is uric acid. And uric acid is insoluble in water. So what happens is, it's just a powder resubstance. So it accumulated at the other end of the balot. So that is uric acid. And this is pee. Wiwi po nung embryo sa loob ng egg. The soup, it's like the counterpart of the placental fluid. So okay lang po, yung sabaw ng balot, okay lang pong inumin nyo yon. Okay, you can also eat the yellow and the embryo. But this hard thing here, that's the waste product of the bird inside the balot. That is not what you eat. Nakuha po? So I hope that when you eat balot, you will avoid that hard thing in the pointed end of the balot. Okay, that is na what you have to get rid of. So these are found in birds, reptiles, and insects. Okay? So, uric acid. Another thing po, sino sa inyo ang naiputan na ng ibon? Hainer, naiputan ka na ba ng bird? Talagang yun yung ano.
Parang wala pa naman ako mamaalala.
Wala pa man. Di ba may mga sabi-sabi yung matatanda na pag naiputan ka na akiba yung you're lucky? But there's also another saying na pag tiga-iputan ka sa payo, meaning you are being fooled. Let's say, may boyfriend ka, tapos ikaw ang girlfriend, syempre, boyfriend mo eh. Tapos may iba pala siyang girl, so parang iniiputan ka sa ulo. So that is, it's another term for like linoloko ka. But going back to the birds, remember po, ang birds, ang waste product niya, uric acid. One characteristic of uric acid is that it is insoluble in water. It does not dissolve in water. So inside the egg, it becomes the hardened part. So paano pag ibon ka na mismo? You're the bird already. So you still need to pee. So bird pee is solid or kind of solid. See, so it remains as a white powder. Okay? So the adults, actually the adult birds excrete white paste, not liquid waste. So kung po nataihan ka ng bird, tingnan mo. Kung puti, wiwi yan. Kung brown or itim, oo yan. So kung brown and white, oo and wiwi yan. Okay? So the white, even class, di ba yung um, lizard, di ba lizard is a reptile? Nakakita na ba kayo ng ipot ng lizard? Grabe naman kung hindi pa, dami sa bahay nyo. Sa ceiling. Okay. Nakakita na kayo. Yung parang raisin. Di ba ganun siya? Tapos may puti dito. Ha? Christian, nakakita na ng ipot ng tugaw at tagaw? Tagaw? What do you
Yes
call
po,
it?
ma'am.
Ayo.
Tagaw po, ma'am.
Tagaw. O, di ba itim? Ito itim. O sa akala mo raisin, so kinain mo. Ew. So, so, ito itim plus ito white. So, as you can see, this white thing here is the urine and the black thing is the poop of the lizard. So, kaya po may puti. Akala mo, ano kaya yun? Kaya pag nagwiwi or pag nag-uo yung lizard, may white na kasama. That's the urine. Because reptiles and birds' waste is solid because it's uric acid and it's insoluble in water. So, yun po yung ano, nakikita nyo, di ba, na yung mga statue. So, if you've been to Barcelona, Spain, or if you have been to Sorsogon City, so park ni Nederman ang daming pigeons, you will see yung mga rebulto doon, tapos yung mga baba, ang daming white stain, that is actually bird pee. Okay? If it's black or brown, it's bird poop. Okay? So, male birds do not have a penis. Di ba? Cloaca sila. Birds. Even reptiles. Their excretory, external part is the cloaca. Okay? So that is po how birds and reptiles eliminate waste. Okay? So alam niyo na ngayon, pagkakain kayong balot at kung mataihan kayo ng birds, wag kayong sabi, ay, nauduan ako. You can say, ay, naihian ako kay bird. Okay? So for land animals, you know this already. For land animals, we need to save water. So we have evolved a less poisonous waste product, not uric acid, not ammonia, but urea. Okay? So this urea is excreted with water via urine. So if you have rats at home, you will smell their urine. If you have a cat, pet cat, isus malala ang ihi ng cat. It smells, I don't know. That's why I'm not so into cats, although I love Taylor Swift. And then, okay, so yun po class yung urine natin. It has urea. So this is just to remind you, class, na proteins are really large molecules. So they are made by translation. So amino acids are connected by peptide bonds. So these are formed through the process of after transcription. Of course, you have translation. So this class, after translation, you will see the primary, secondary, bye-bye, tertiary and quaternary structure of your protein. And remember that your proteins, they produce a lot of the body structures. Okay, blood, hemoglobin, enzyme, hormone, myosin, actin, cytoskeleton, everything, okay, is protein based. So here, alanine and valine, you see, is an example of, or these are examples of, or two of the 20 essential amino acids. Okay, so again, as you can see, if they are broken down, they are converted to ammonia. So how does the circulatory system help? Via your liver. So the liver converts ammonia to urea. Okay? Before it is transported to the body and then enters the kidney. So urea will then filter out this urea, eliminate it into the excretory system via the urethra, and then of course malinis na yung dadaan na blood sa inyong mga tissues. Alright? Um, remember nyo, class, lahat ng tissue sa katawan nyo ay nagpo-produce po ng toxic substance ammonia because all the cells in your body undergo cellular respiration or cellular metabolism. Okay? So this needs to be broken down via your liver. So wag masyadong sirain ang liver ng kaiinom ng alcohol. Kasi po importante yan sa pag-convert ng ammonia into urea. Okay? So, this is the structure of your urea. Okay? So, how is urine formed? Generally, the general process is very easy. So, when amino acid is broken down, ammonia is produced. It travels through your liver to be converted. So, this is a chemical process. So, you should learn this in biochemistry. So, it's converted to amino acid, and then your urea will travel via the blood to the kidneys, where it is separated from the blood in the process of filtration. So urea will now join the filtrate to be eliminated via excretion. So may reabsorption of water and other valuable substances, and there is secretion of substances from the capillaries directly into the collecting duct. So yung mga toxins and drugs is eliminated also. That is your secretion. Okay? So we are done with the first two. Let's now go to water balance and alcohol. Okay? So for the urinary system for humans, these are the general parts. You have the kidney which produces urine. You have the ureter which transports urine. Ito po ang ureter. Ay hindi kita. So let's see. You have the ureter here. So this is your kidney. Ano ba? Okay. This is your ureter. And of course, this is your urinary bladder. And of course, your urethra. So the bladder stores urine, the urethra passes urine outside the environment. The ureter transports urine from the kidney to the blood of your human urinary system. And number two, please send your answers to um, your messenger. All right, so that's it. So we now go to your kidneys, your very hard working kidneys. Okay, alagaan ang kidney for long life. Okay, so you have two kidneys. Alam niyo ba yon? Okay. These kidneys receive between 1.1 liters to 2 liters of blood per day. Yay! May dinner na ako, class. For Kilios from Sir Bibi. Thank you, sir. All right. So, yung blood nyo, class, 1.1 liters of blood. It's like the volume of a car. Kaya lang, class, your body has only about 5.6 liters of blood. So, in other words, yung blood na dadaan po sa kidney nyo ay every 4 minutes at least. Okay? So, every 4 minutes po, na filter out yung dumi from your blood via your kidney. Okay? So, let's move on to the anatomy of your kidney. So, blood na mayaman sa dumi or rich in waste products, okay, will travel to your kidney by way of your aorta. So from the aorta, from the heart, pupunta na po yan sa mga arteries. And in the case of the kidney, it's of course your renal artery. Okay po? So from the renal artery, the right and left, of course, each kidney is supplied by the right and left renal artery, and also you have the right and left renal vein. Okay. So once inside yung blood, once it's inside the kidney, the renal arteries will branch into this very complex, as mentioned earlier, capillary bed. So ang dami baga na capillary bed that works with the millions of nephron that is found inside your kidney. Okay? So, kung millions of nephron, di millions din syempre yung capillary beds. So, they are closely associated with your kidney nephrons. Okay? So, the nephron, they're small tubes. As you can see, itong mga small tubules na to, yung brown, na parang paro-paro G. Okay? They receive components of the blood that will ultimately form your urine. Okay? So, ito in closer. So, each of your nephron enlarge each unit has renal cortex and renal medulla. That's part of your kidney. So you will have your nephron here. So itong parang ulo, it's like a snake actually. So the head of the snake is the glomerulus, and the end, that is all this one unit, the glomerulus, the proximal convoluted tubule, the loop of Henle, then your distal convoluted tubule to your collecting duct. So that is the one unit of your nephron, or the functional unit of your kidney. So from the kidney, you have, of course, the renal pelvis, and then to the ureter. Okay? So ang daming tubes. That's the anatomy of your kidney. So how is urine formed in the nephron? Kanina, general formation, di ba, ng urine. Ammonia, punta sa liver, then punta sa kidney, tapos urine. So in the nephron, you have una, blood pressure, of course, coming from the aorta, forces water along with valuable substances like glucose, amino acid, and urea, which is the waste, coming from your capillaries will enter your nephron. Okay? So glucose, so if you will see classic glucose and amino acid, these are the nutrients. Okay? While urea is the waste product. So in addition, some other substances that is included in your, so you have glucose, water, amino acid. So these are important. Urea is the waste. And then you have sometimes yung merong hormones also that is carried by the blood into the nephron. Okay? Glucose and amino acids are the ones reabsorbed. Okay? And then some water is also reabsorbed. This is in the collecting duct. Okay? That's why your urine becomes concentrated. And because ang natitira sa urine mo is yung water and yung salt. and yung urea. Since so urine is urea and salt concentrated in water. So that is your uh, what is this? Urine formation in the nephron. Now, since the waste products class are left or some, yung waste products, di ba, na naiiwan siya sa nephron, kailangan siyang tanggalin sa katawan. So, kailangan nyo talagang umihi. Kung hindi, then nasa nephron lang yung inyong um, waste. It accumulates there and will later on destroy your kidney. Kaya baga class, pag nasobrahan kayo ng salty food, mga mahiligon ka mo sa chichirya, excuse me, mahiligon ka mo sa kanton, grabe ang salt, MSG, and then you really love salty food but you don't drink enough water, yan. Mareklamo po dyan, class, ang kidney nyo. So to focus on the basic unit, ganito ka-complex ang isang nephron. So akala nyo, simple lang siya, para siyang ahas. But no. So you see that blood and capillary bed surrounds your kidney nephron. Okay? Kasi nga, sa process ng secretion, makikita nyo, class, that directly, dito, tingnan natin. You will see in this part, the upper part, di ba, in the distal convoluted tubule, you will see na yung drugs, creatinine, and hydrogen ions directly is secreted, class, from the capillaries to the distal convoluted tubule. So parang through diffusion, okay, pwede siya, class, na padaanin sa membrane ng distal convoluted tubule yung mga toxins. So drugs, creatinine, and hydrogen ions. O, minsan din, halimbawa, may imbalance kayo sa pH. So, kailangan ibalik yung pH or ayusin yung pH level. Then, from the blood, hydrogen ions will be um, diffused into your distal convoluted tubule or to your nephron to balance out or to maintain homeostasis. So makikita nyo, class, that from the renal artery, all right, the blood enters your glomerulus to be filtered out. So dito yung filtration part. So what is being filtered? You have urea, water, uric acid, glucose, amino acid, and salt. So in this case, uric acid pa. Class, FYI, may uric acid din po tayo. Kaya 'di ba, one of the several disorders in humans is the high levels of uric acid. So I'm sure maybe one of your parents or a tita, a lola with high levels of uric acid, makikita nyo ano sila, masakit yung mga joints, hindi na makalakad, and they are asked to avoid leguminous food and even meat products that are high in uric acid. Okay? So, kasi nakakaapekto yon din ng physiology natin. So, urine is formed. So, waste-filled blood from the renal artery arrives at your nephron, particularly in the glomerulus. So, yung blood pressure, class coming from the heart is what forces water. So, ito, nakita nyo, salt, nutrients like glucose and amino acid, the filtrate, class, from the blood capillary will enter your glomerular capsule. So kita nyo to na nakabalot sa pink na glomerulus, that's your glomerular capsule. So makikita nyo, class, filtrate is in the glomerular capsule of the nephron. So yung mga blood components na nakapasok sa nephron nyo, okay, are on the pathway out of the body as they will go through the proximal convoluted tubule. So you will see, class, sa proximal convoluted tubule, there is an arrow going back to the artery. Alright? So makikita nyo, class, sa artery, anong nangyayari? Sa renal arteries, binabalik po ni proximal convoluted tubule yung mga valuable substances like water, amino acid, glucose, and some salt. So as the filtrate traverses your loop of Henle, further, class, may reabsorption dito ng salt and water. And yung purple part po, yan po where mixing of the oxygenated and oxygenated deoxygenated blood occurs. So dito ulit, as I've mentioned earlier, secretion of drugs, creatinine, and hydrogen ions into the distal convoluted tubule. And then finally, your final filtrate will go down the collecting duct. And in the collecting duct, further, you will see that water may be reabsorbed. And what is actually eliminated out of the collecting duct to the renal pelvis out of the ureter is water, salt, urea, uric acid, ammonia, and creatinine. So these things, depends on the animal, will now be found in your urine. Okay? So, yan po ang process sa isang nephron. Okay? So, here, once po nag-exit na yung urine from the collecting duct, it will now move to the pelvis and then dito po sa pelvis and then out of the ureter. So that's very simple lang. Okay? So for those who have not seen, again, cross-section, the glomerulus, okay, loop of Henle here, and then the distal convoluted tubule here, and then, of course, going down is your collecting duct. Okay? So this is your, again, just to show you that each of your kidney actually contains 1 million nephrons and thousands of collecting ducts. Okay? So, renal cortex and renal medulla. Meron pa ba? Ayan. This is just to show you yung parang ulo ng nephron. This is class. Nag-move ba yung slide? Yan. This is your glomerulus. So it filters blood, and in the glomerulus, proteins cannot pass through. So the epithelium around your glomerular capillaries is modified into forming podocytes. So it yan class. So podocyte is composed of capillaries. Okay? So puro capillary. So you have the glomerular capillary. So you will see kung saang part class nag-exit yung filtrate papunta sa proximal tubule. And then kung saan galing siya from the afferent arteriole. Ayan. Papasok po yan doon sa inyong glomerular capillary. Okay? So this is where the actual filtration occurs. And it is, by the way, a passive process. Okay? So, yung mga solute nyo dyan yan filter out. Okay? So, there. By the way, class, meron ding effect pala yung glomerular filtrate rate nyo or filtration rate. It's affected, syempre, just by looking at the glomerulus, yung filtration rate or GFR ang tawag or the glomerular filtration rate, it's affected by several factors, one of which is the surface area. Syempre, the bigger the area for filtration, the higher the rate of filtration. So surface area, and then another one is permeability. Remember that there are substances that easily pass through the membrane and some substances cannot. So permeability also affect the rate of glomerular filtration. And last but not the least is the pressure or filtration pressure. So itong tatlo mostly affects the rate of filtration in your glomeruli or glomerulus. So in a healthy individual, usually po yung 1 and 2, surface area and permeability, hindi po yan naaapektuhan. Of course, glomerular, the pressure is affected syempre by the action of your blood circulation. Okay, yung how much pressure is exerted by the pump of the blood. Okay, so ito, syempre pag ikaw ay nasira mo yung kidney mo and you're an unhealthy individual, syempre directly proportional siya kung bababa ang surface area nyo and the permeability of your kidney, particularly your glomerulus, so bababa din po yung function ng kidney mo. So, yan. Filtration will be also damaged. Okay? So yan, diyan na magsisimula yung mga sumasakit na yung mga likod. So it's one of the symptoms of a kidney damage or baka may UTI kayo. Yung girls especially, yung medyo likod nyo class, yung dito. Guys, this is true for you also ha. Don't think na ang lalaki ay hindi na UTI or hindi kayo prone sa kidney damage. You are. Okay? So, usually ang glomerular filtrate is composed of water, organic molecules, and of course, mineral ions. So the sizes vary. So this is question number 3. Okay.